we are back for episode 173 for a third week on the Chosen Life podcast. Jonathan A. Hacohen, Kormans LP, and back as our guest, Mr. Marco de Silva, Century 21 Leading Edge, formerly working with Treb, and also part of the Century 21 Technology Advisory Committee.
I like it.
It took me 10 minutes to memorize those three words, but I think I successfully did that. Man, at Century 21 Technology Advisory Committee, man, first I got to ask you, how many committees are there?
Well, you know what? One thing about the brand, the franchise brand, is that they work hard with the brokerages in sort of, trying to embrace new technology for our industry and our agents. So a lot of times they reach out to brokerages and say, hey, can you be a part and give some feedback? So it's been a part that anytime Leading Edge, especially our brokerage as well, recognize that we really do push the edge. We're always looking for new technology and better ways to do that. So yeah, it's nice to sort of get involved, and they want to hear from us. Yeah.
So how does it work? Does the Technology Advisory Committee come looking for you, or do you go looking for them?
No, sometimes I think it's the overall, like when you have a bunch of meetings and they kind of, overall, we have conversations with them and they might notice a certain talent or experience or a certain brokerage that might need to give some more voice. And yeah, they'll sort of make the recommendations. So it's something that we do pretty regular. And I know with Leading Edge, even within ourselves, we meet every Monday as managers, every single Monday, and we look at what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we can do better on, and even technology, and we hear from our agents, and we're constantly changing. So C21 Canada in itself does sort of a similar kind of practice with us, with all the brokerages.
So you've been now 3 years with this committee, right?
Yep.
According to LinkedIn,
it was that 1 year. Yeah, like it was sort of that 1 year time, and then sometimes they'll come back and say, "Hey, let's do it again." So it's sort of an on-off committee.
How many people are on the committee?
Oh wow, it's just we were in the virtual. I don't even know the right numbers. Maybe about seven of us.
You meet virtually?
Yeah, we meet virtually. Yeah, because now we're dealing with different brokerages that are in different locations, right?
Yes.
So it's all of Canada. C21 Canada is a brand representing all of Canada. So yeah, we do need to meet virtually for that.
So I'm picturing Marco de Silva, who loves technology, gets on the Technology Advisory Committee. He comes to his first meeting. He rolls up his sleeves like, man, I got some technology for you. What was that first meeting like? And how have you found being on the committee as far as advising Century 21 and how it helps the brokerage?
Well, I know obviously the main topic that we talked about was AI at that time. And I'll admit, I've learned a lot about AI during this time frame. It was very new to me, right? I'm no expert, but we use AI almost every single day. It's now an extension of me. And so I think that was probably our first conversation, is how to embrace and how to use AI. And we were all sort of, learning and sort of, I guess, discussing how we apply it to our business and our brokerage. But now today, it's like a part of me.
I laugh in my mind because in 2025, I have people still coming and saying to me, hey, what do you think about AI? I've heard about it. I'm thinking about looking into it. And here you were in 2022 already looking at it. It's amazing. But Marco, look, you and I, for these young whippersnappers that, are new here and, don't know how things used to be back in the early 2000s and late 90s, let's kind of scale back a second here. So I want to bring you back to Jeremiah for a moment. Remember Jeremiah over at Direct Nissan selling cars, right? Mm-hmm. People think he's 25, 27. He's 19. Okay, so he's been doing this since he was 17. So, like, he knows his stuff.
He started young, and he's doing great. Like, I see his posts. He's selling it. He's connecting. I love it.
When he was still in diapers, I would come home, I'd feed him, change him into his pajamas, and he'd come with me to client appointments. I showed him sales and client interactions and communication.
Fantastic.
From the time before he could talk. And so I remember one day bringing him to the office. I'll never forget this. So it's after hours. I have to grab a few things at the office. And he's like, at this time, let's say he's 14, right? And he looks over at this box. And he shows me, he goes, that's a really weird looking photocopy machine, Dad. And I go, that's not a photocopy machine, son. That's a fax machine. He goes, fax machine? What's that? And I look at him, I'm like, don't they teach you anything in school, really? I go, look, son, back in the day, okay, we didn't have computers, We didn't have printers. We used to have to courier everything.
The rotary phone, come on.
We
you
had
don't remember
carbon
that?
paper. I
Yeah,
heard
carbon.
about that. But I go back in, like, I believe it was the 80s now, if I'm not mistaken, around mid 80s or so, when the fax machine really started getting steam. I go, imagine, instead of having to mail something, courier something, you take a piece of paper, you put it in the machine, you dial the phone number, it sends it through the phone line, and then somebody else has that box, that fax machine, and they receive it back. It was miraculous technology.
Yes.
Can you imagine real estate transactions, no computers, no fax machines? You had to hand deliver everything or courier something. Fax machine was a big technological step.
It was.
But for Jeremiah and his generation, right? You know what he says to me? Dad, it's called emails.
Exactly. And no matter what, we look back and we're so awed at that technology at that time. And yeah, look how, things have changed. And I do that a lot. I don't know if you do that, but I like to think ahead and I like to see how things will change. And it's sort of that huge change in technology. You look at some of these big companies, even the way of thinking has changed. Have you ever thought that you would get in a car of a stranger picking you up and driving you places, and that's the norm? Would you ever think about renting your room to a complete stranger back in the day? And now that's the norm. So it's not just the technology, it's the acceptance of just saying, like, so I try to do that. I try to think ahead and go, how are we going to think 20 years from now?
I had breakfast with an airline pilot literally 3 weeks ago, and is a friend of mine from the past. And I said to him, I have a huge fear of flying, like deathly afraid.
I didn't know that.
And it's really bad. And so I was getting over it, and I've flown. I haven't flown since 2019. I have not gotten on a plane because the longer I was going, my phobia gets worse and worse. I'm like, you know what? I drove to San Diego. I'm not getting on a plane.
I didn't know that.
And I want to get over this. So I'm sitting with the pilot, and he's trying to explain to me all the protocols. And it's amazing, by the way, the protocols on pilots and what they have to pass through. Fantastic. And he says to me the exact thing you just said. He goes, so you got these pilots, you understand the simulators they go through and everything else, but yet you're prepared to go with a complete stranger who picks you up in his car, and you're sitting in the back seat on the highway. I would rather take my chances on a plane with a trained pilot than whoever off of Uber. And I said, and then I messaged him from the back of an Uber a week later, and I said, this guy's flying on the highway. You were right. I now have a phobia of Uber drivers. but in all seriousness, so Marco, I'm not going to name the law firm, but I'm at a law firm in the year 2013. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, the year 2013, which is now 12 years ago, we can agree we had computers, we had emails. It was a working system, right? This law firm still had a fax machine room. So you come into the room, table by table, there's about 10 fax machines, and they were receiving faxes through there, and they were sending faxes.
Right.
And I'm looking at this, and I said, okay, besides the fact that it's completely outdated, there are email address clones where you can fax as an email and send it to somebody has to have a fax. They're like, I only accept faxes. It's so secure. Email as a fax. You dial their phone number 1-416 at faxplus.com or whatever it's called, and you could just do it through your computer. What are you guys doing? Think about how faxes can get lost this way through the machine. Machines break. Ink, paper, wastage. This room is obsolete. This should be used as an office or anything else than a fax machine room. But it's funny, you could have a big company, and when they have their outdated ways and they don't want to embrace technology, it's a scary thing.
And we're almost on the reverse. I would say, like at Leading Edge, I'm telling you, we're so like on top of it that we become uncomfortable when we're not changing. It's almost the reverse, because there was this time where change towards technology was uncomfortable. I'm now finding it the other way around, where if you're not changing, it gets uncomfortable. So that's a part of it. And AI too, it's just changed how I work. I apply to everything I do now. And I'm seeing, I understand the journey more. By using it, I'm seeing how things change. And obviously, I don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but I have a better idea how AI is helping and where it's going to go in the future, right? But yeah.
I feel those that learn from history and understand history are more likely to create history. You can use that line, by the way.
Wow,
I just made that up.
I like that.
So why am I saying this to you? So I want to rewind back to 2001. So I told you I articled in law in 2001. You can do the math. I got called to the bar in 2002. So I'm in a big Bay Street law firm, 100-lawyer law firm, 3 floors, in a big tower there. And you think like, wow, they must have been so advanced in life and everything else. And I'm reading an interesting book at the time. So I've been being a bit of a technology nerd. I read in the year 2001 about a lawyer that made their law firm paperless. Okay, I was reading about paperless 24 years ago, and understanding on how the right scanner, how tablets were going to start becoming a thing, smartphones were going to start coming into it, and how you'd be able to do this. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, with Kormans LLP, I joined in 2015.
Right.
By 2020, we were fully paperless and virtual. And even in the year 2018, 2019, people told me I was mad. They said it's never going to happen. Banks will never accept electronic signatures. Builders will never accept electronic signatures. They want 4 copies of everything.
Yeah.
So I said, let me understand this. We're going to print off 4 copies of everything. We're going to sign them. Somebody's going to scan it, and then we're going to shred it. How about we cut out the whole process and go straight to the scanning part?
Yes.
And one of the things is, in order to create a system, the system doesn't work unless you deal with all your past backlog. So in case you're a paper law firm, for example, or a paper brokerage, how do we deal with all our current paper that's on hand from the past?
Right.
And then how do we deal with it going forward? Because if you're going to try to deal with the past papers, but you're going to keep creating new papers going forward, you're going to create the same issue in a year or two. So to me, it's first of all, if you're going to come paperless and virtual, step number 1, stop the bleeding immediately.
Yes.
Forget about what's been done in the past. Find a way to go paperless virtual today. You're not going to be creating any more papers going forward, or very little. So instead of creating, let's say, 1 million pounds of paper, you can go down to 1 pound in a year if you do it right. And once you create the system going forward, then we figure out about the past. Worst case scenario, you hire a company. They're going to come. They're going to scan everything on site, shred everything, and you're done. It's that simple. They're going to hand you a key. They're going to have it in the cloud, and your paper days are done. I remember, Marco, for me, it was a big thing, taking all my personal papers that I was holding on to, all those files.
Do you remember those days?
And moving it to a simple key. My whole life is now a key. By the way, my whole life key, in the last 15 years, how many times do you think I've gone back to those old files?
Of course, no. It's
10?
and I'm
20?
curious to know now from a legal standpoint, because technology moves a lot faster than the legal world. And that's been one of the biggest issues with technology across the board. So looking at every industry, navigating technology, a lot of it has to do with that. The legal, the acceptance of these documents, procedures and processes. So, and I just see technology growing so fast, but for a while, the legal aspect was far behind, and will continue to be, because technology just keeps moving fast.
It also depends on what industry you're in and who your governing board is, because when they don't allow it, like for example, I keep getting notices, lawyers, no notaries electronically. Well, then you ain't doing it, but the technology's there. They just have to allow it.
But you mentioned it too. So like you have one transaction, and how many different industries are tied to that, right? So you look at real estate. Well, we're not the only ones there, right? So we need to, we need to answer to the lenders, also from the insurance, the lawyers. Like there's different sides, title insurance. There's different things.
Go buy a car. Guess what? You're still creating pounds of papers.
Yes, it is.
And they could just be doing this on an iPad. I don't get it.
We love it. Like here, we've upgraded, and we're just we go paperless. And I'll tell you something. It was a bit of a fight, right? Like nobody didn't like these changes. Okay, when you have all the agents we have, it's like it's a big ship, and you're kind of steering. But guess what? They love it now. And it was tough, even for us managers, trying to say, hey, we got to go. We love you. It's the best place to be. And now guess what? It's all done paperless. We invested in that. We made those changes. Yeah.
You remember those days, Marco, of you would have the client in the office. You'd sign the signed offer.
Yeah.
You'd fax it over to the other side. They'd drive it over to their client, get them to initial, sign, make changes, fax it back. And you have sometimes an offer that was redone, refaxed 8-9 times.
Of course.
But at that point, it's completely illegible. They changed the price in the numbers. They didn't change it in the letter form. You can't read the proper closing date. And here's a firm offer. Now, okay, great. It's completely illegible. What's the actual closing date? What's the price? And now
remember you couldn't read it? And yeah, exactly.
And how many times that created a fight? Because they're like, we agree there's a firm offer, but part of the problem is, I remember one of them. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
So let's say there were 10 offers back and forth. The buyer, in their wisdom, went back to offer number 3 to make the changes because it's a cleaner looking version, and sent that as offer number 8.
Right.
So all agreed upon changes from 4, 5, 6, and 7 are now gone. And then we have the final offer in. So what's the correct one?
No. But, and this is why technology becomes important. So even the changes that have happened in our industry now with, the new trust set rules and changes, and now also like what we're doing is now we're going through an open closed offer option. How do you navigate that? Now imagine this. Under the legislation, the seller is in full control of what they want and if they want it changed. So imagine having 6 offers on the table, and seller currently is, hey, we're doing closed offer right now. And then all of a sudden they want to change it to open offers. And you've got to sort of report back to all these buyers. So the tools got to be in place. And that's what we're actually working on now and training on, because we need to be ahead of the game. And without the technology, can you imagine navigating 6 offers and open and closed? And it would be crazy. So this is a transition. And that's where the love comes in. You transition, it's uncomfortable, but you'll be thanking us in the future. And they are.
And the thing is, imagine for your realtors at Century 21 Leading Edge, for the lawyers at Kormans LLP, when you can come to a prospective client and say, we got leading edge technology,
right,
and we offer you the best state of the art, and we can close any deal on Ontario. You could be anywhere in the world and sign the paperwork, no problem. And by the way, even for our law firm, we did something that was unheard of at the time when we went into in 2020. When it was time to sign the paperwork with the clients, we recorded every appointment. We had the technology for it. Reason being, protects the client and protects us. There's no ambiguity of what was said. Everything's cut and dry, very clear. We have the confidence that we're giving the right advice, it's being received, and we record it. And that's one thing I see, and we could debate this probably for like an hour, but where I see realtors going with in the future, the technology's there, there'll be no ambiguity. I didn't tell you initial. No. I explained to you each of the clauses, and here's the video to show it. I think everything from a professional point of view will be recorded. And people have to embrace that, because in this day and age, you go to court, a signature isn't always enough.
No, yeah, and that's like even the basic of contract law. And obviously you know this, but yeah, they have to understand what they're signing. It's not enough just to have a signature. And that's why it's so critical. I think, to me, I'm more like, especially when I coach and train, like within our office, I want agents to understand the why behind everything. And when you really sort of deep dive in every contract, every clause, and trust and truly understand it, it's so much easier to deliver to your clients and explain it. And so the why behind everything, and so even when you're dealing with a potential lead, I'm not big on scripts. I can't pick up a phone and do a cold call through a script. But the more you understand your environment from the heart, it's so easy to have this discussion with people and explain contracts properly. But no, we've advanced, we pushed through, and I know the realtors, some struggled with it, some loved it right from the beginning, but at the end, they now understand. And clients deserve that, right? The consumers deserve that. We need to be on top of our game.
Let me ask you, in the year 2025, do you love, do you hate, or are you indifferent to AI?
I love it. I could talk hours about AI, but I will tell you where it's sort of changed me.
Please.
I have a very creative mind, but it's empowered me. It's empowered me to be a stronger Marco. And like, I'll give you an example. I'm not a developer or a coder. I can build sites, but a lot of my are like kind of no code. We use Google Workspace. I look through Google Workspace. There's probably 90% of it you probably haven't even touched, or even if you're actively using Google, you have no idea the power behind it. And I started to deep dive. And learn about it. And with AI, it answers my questions. Quite often I have to sort of create functions and codes, and I'm working with AI. But I've learned how to master it. I mean, I can't really say master, but AI is driven by a lot of prompts where you're asking it to do something for you. And I started to get better at my prompts, and I started to understand how AI works. So I'll give you one example.
Please.
So let's just say you've got to write up an entire marketing campaign, email campaign, text campaign for your organization. You know, you can look at a writer or bring it in-house. Here's the power where I saw. I understand real estate, 25 years of it. I understand marketing, but I'm a lousy writer. I know what to connect and the topics and how to connect with people, right? So I started to work with AI, and now maybe an amateur might say, hey, write some content for my website and maybe give it a second prompt. I don't. I'll take that sort of first prompt and I'll say, okay, that's great. But now let's connect this. So we create a lot of, through our Google Drive, through our organization, communication, whether it's marketing or certain trainings, like I've got our Master Edge training that we've got. So I can now say, okay, and I work with different types of platforms with AI, but let's say Gemini, Google Gemini, and I'll say, take this drive, take this, take that, take this website, take Treb's website, Rico's website, and then I ask engaging questions. And I'll say, now let's put it on the tone of emotional. Now let's get technical. And I start to really navigate. So my finished product, quite often, I will change it and interact with AI, probably 15, 20 times before I get a finished product. And that's where I sort of see a bit of the future moving forward, where there are going to be the fakes, and I don't mean to use that in a bad way, where they'll just say, hey, write this for me. And the ones that really put some of their own sort of human thoughts into it. And that's where I'm at today. So I'm tweaking, I'm diving in, I'm taking my expertise. I'm saying, hey, you know what? Use Tressa, use this. And I also introduce part of the team. Hey, they already know who Paul is and who Tassis is and what's their persona and their roles in the company. Say, okay, now bring in our team. So, I now build better. I can use coding and just take my experience and talent to a whole different level that I couldn't have. So my point is that I take on new projects that I wouldn't have ever have touched. It's sort of having that sort of assistant right next to you. And I'll say, yeah, I can do it. I can do it now. So that's where I find that AI really can take somebody to the whole different level.
Have you had those people, Marco, that have ever come to you and said, are you worried, Marco, that in 5, 10, 20 years that AI is going to take over, that the artificial intelligence, the robots are going to be so smart that they're going to figure out that they're going to run us and we're going to be working for them and everything's going to be run through AI? All the jobs are going to be obsolete.
Yeah.
Have you heard about those theories and how do you feel about that?
100%. I'm a realist. I mean, right off the bat, you look at my experience right now, I'm a perfect example of I needed things done. Am I going to hire somebody, pay somebody for it, or figure it out myself? So just in my role alone, I think there's two parts to that answer. Yes, I figured out how to do a lot myself, don't need to hire. So is there a loss there? Obviously there is. But I also think that it is strengthening because now somebody like me has sort of taken their talent to a whole different level. Okay, so I think people got to embrace this change and learn how to use it and take your talent to a whole different level, your confidence, and start solving more problems within an organization. And that's what I see. So yeah, I do see a bit of that blend. And down the future, I think similar to what we talked about, let's look at the taxi world. Is that obsolete? No. Is it changing? Yes. We're rethinking. And that's where I find the biggest challenge. It's not just embracing technology, it's changing the way we think. And that, I think, is the biggest question that is hard to answer. What will we find acceptable 20 years from now that today we wouldn't even think of? And that's going to be an everyday part of our lives in 20 years. But yes, I believe there'll be some change in AI, but it'll empower.
So as we enter today's episode, I got to ask you one last funny question.
All right.
We've talked about the evolution today of technology and how we went from fax machine, photocopies. computers, emails, digital signatures,
Rotary phone.
virtual meetings to AI. Next 5, 10, 20 years, I know you've been reading up on stuff in general in life, not just in real estate, but generally in life. Where do you see the evolution of technology? What's more to come? Is it going to be self-driving cars there? Is it going to be flying cars like the Jetsons? Smart appliances to the umpteenth degree? Like, where do you see technology going in society in the next few years? What's the next big thing?
I kind of, I was thinking the human influence factor is what I sort of came up with not too long ago. I see, like, a perfect example, you get all this technology that's now readily available to all of us. But we're going to have to bring in our own human influence into it to make powerful things. So I see a whole different revolution of the do-it-yourselfers, in a sense, taking all this technology and power and those that will know what to do with it and become more advanced. Because whether we like it or not, this is going to be a part of our lives. And we're going to have those who just fall behind and some that say, wait a minute, like even like websites. I'm not a developer. Today, I love to use tools to build sites. I can confidently build powerful sites that I would never think 5 years ago that I'd be capable of doing this, right? So yeah, I see a sort of a new world of, in a sense, where you've got the people who will know how to navigate and how to bring in their influence in a creative manner to creating new powerful companies, businesses, business ideas, solutions for the world. And I think that's where we'll see things. But yeah, obviously we're going to see self-driving cars, robots. I'm big on the robot world. And you're going to see more robots. And they're going to be, in sort of humanoid form. Why? That's the easiest to transition, right? You don't have to change the way a car is or the house is. So I think robots are going to be a big part of it. And obviously the AI natural language, being able to get answers to everything. Even Google, look at Google. How many people are now searching Google versus asking the AI? So yeah, revolution. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. And I think there'll be some good and bad out of it.
We shall go back and watch the Jetsons and really see what they did. And you know what? A lot of that may come to fruition. You never, ever know.
But we're still going to be on our minimal phones, okay? We got to make that pack one day when we get that.
You just give me a call when you have yours ready, and I'm going to order mine. So we're going to do it.
We're going to do that.
We talk technology, real estate life. This is Marco de Silva, Century 21 Leading Edge. Marco, people with questions, comments on technology, real estate, best way to reach you?
Just, I'm big on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn or just, email, call. Marco.desilva@century21.ca. That's my email. And so we're always here. I've always liked to have great conversation. And Jonathan, this has been a pleasure. I know we'll definitely do lunch again.
Absolutely. And we'll be doing it with dumb phones.
You got it. I love it.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Send in your questions, comments. And this has been the Chosen Life Podcast.